What's going on, guys? I hope everyone's having a great day. I'm sorry if my voice sounds a little nasally. I apologize. It's March. It's that time of year. Allergies, pollen floating around in the air. It's not fun. I don't know one person that finds this fun. We've all dealt with it before, but yeah, not enjoying that too much. But today, tonight rather, I'm gonna just kind of share something with you guys. This is my top 12 most watched films in my collection, and it actually took me a little bit to kind of narrow this down, and I kind of had to have the help of my fiance as well to help me narrow this down and find out what it is really that I find myself watching the most out of my collection. Now, I watch all my movies, and I watch movies I don't own as well, but I do end up buying them. But these are ones that I just find myself watching more than other films, I guess, is the way to, phrase that. But, yeah, we got 12 movies here. These are just, like I said, ones I find myself gravitating towards a lot. So, why don't we go ahead and get into it, starting at the very last, number 12, John Carpenter's Halloween. Now, I used to watch this thing all year round, but nowadays I find myself just watching it mainly in October, but it's just a very, very atmospheric, creepy, frightening horror film that a lot of films, I don't know, a lot of films today should take from movies like this if they want to learn how to frighten an audience, which I don't know if this kind of horror would go so well in an audience nowadays, as the attention span has kind of changed, and I don't know why, but yeah, John Carpenter's Halloween, very, very atmospheric, classic horror film. Not a perfect film, but a very, very well-crafted, atmospheric horror film. That's one of my favorites to watch. Alright, so next, this is a little bit of a controversial one, because this is actually one of my favorite movies of all time, but a lot of people hate this movie, especially for the ending, but I think the ending is brilliant. It's The Mist. I just think this is an excellent film. It's not a perfect film, but it's absolutely excellent in every way possible. I have read the book, and I think I prefer the ending to the film. I prefer the change they made to the ending in the film. It's just a lot more bleak. I don't know, I just like that kind of ending more than the book. But this didn't really go well with a lot of audiences, but I still think that this is an incredible, very atmospheric film. Very, very, very just good film if you haven't seen it. Alright, next. Got one that I just, whenever I need a laugh, I just watch this thing. Happy Gilmore. It's just an absolutely hilarious film. It's, I think Adam Sandler's best movie about a hockey player who sucks at hockey, so he plays golf instead. He's got this really bad temper, and he tries to fight people like he's in the NHL, because you can fight in hockey, but in golf it's not as much of a violent sport as hockey. But yeah, this movie just really gets a lot of laughs out of me. Anytime that Happy goes to beat somebody up in this movie, it's funny. And then he has the big fight with Bob Barker, and it's amazing. And the alligator, when he beats up he smashes up the clown at the mini golf course. I don't know, man. I just find it really funny. But yeah, that's Happy Gilmore. Alright, here's another controversial one. And I get it. I get why people don't like this film. I understand it. I understand that Christopher Reeve is their guy, and Christopher Reeve is fine. I love Christopher Reeve in a specific role. But I didn't grow up in that time. I grew up with the movies, but I didn't grow up in that time to view Christopher Reeve as my definitive Superman. But Brandon Routh has always been Superman to me. And it's because this came out in my time. And I saw this thing in the theater with my dad. And we came out. He didn't like the movie. I don't remember if it was because he preferred Christopher Reeve. But I think that this movie right here gets a lot of just unnecessary shit. I think Brandon Routh is, if anybody was to play Superman after Christopher Reeve, it'd be Brandon Routh. I don't like Henry Cavill. I think Man of Steel is an awful film, and Batman v Superman, I like parts of that movie, and Superman is not one of those aspects of that film I like. But this film I just enjoy every time I watch it. And it's not a perfect film. There's no such thing as a perfect film. Well, there actually is to me, but that's just me. And that film will show up later in this list. But I never understood why people hated Superman Returns. I get that the older generation that are into comic book films and comic books in general will gravitate towards Christopher Reeve. But like I said, I didn't grow up then, so Christopher Reeve, he's an amazing Superman to me. But Brandon Routh, I just always thought Brandon Routh deserved better from fan and critical reception. I think that he has the spirit of Christopher Reeve in his portrayal of Superman, but he also makes it his own. So he's not totally ripping off Christopher Reeve. He has those elements of Christopher Reeve's Superman, but he makes it his own as well, while staying loyal to the source material. So, at least in my opinion. But Superman Returns is actually probably my favorite live-action DC film of all time. That's just me. I'm sure I'll get a lot of dislikes for that, but I love Superman Returns. I think it's a phenomenal film. Alright, so next we got The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Now, when this movie first came out, I can't remember if I was just getting out of middle school and going into high school, if I was already in high school. I can't remember, but there was a lot of hype in the teen, like high school, the realm of teens and high school and whatnot. There's a lot of hype for this movie, and when this movie came out, everybody was talking about how it's just like the greatest teen movie of all time. And I went into the theater and I went and saw it, and I came out and I was like, it was good. I really enjoyed it, but I didn't think of it as just like this generational defining piece of cinema. But I've seen the movie like 40 times after. I always thought it was just a good movie. Then when I got a little bit older, and as of recently, I went back and I revisited this film quite a few times now, and honestly, I think this thing is pretty damn great. It is kind of indie-ish, and indie-ish films are not for everybody, but I mean, it's got Logan Lerman, it's got Emma Watson, it's got Ezra Miller, it's even got Paul Rudd, and it's got Joan Cusack in it for a little bit. Those are all A-list actors and actresses. But I definitely think, even if you're not a teenager dealing with high school problems, I think this is definitely worth a watch for everybody. Because it's a very, very funny, entertaining film, all while being heartbreaking and sad and miserable. And, you know, our main character suffers from existential dread and has a certain incident in his past that affects him greatly in his present. So, and it takes place in the 90s, and there's all this 90s kind of memorabilia and retro. It's very, very retro. It's a really good movie. I really think this is actually a great movie. It's a really, really, really great movie. So, if you haven't seen The Perks of Being a Wallflower, do yourself a favor, watch it, keep an open mind. I found the trailers to make it seem like it's some teeny bopper high school movie, but it's actually a little bit more profound than that, in my opinion. Alright, this is one I definitely find myself watching quite a bit. Red Dawn. The original, not the remake. Red Dawn was just always a movie that just completely blew my mind the first time I saw it. And I've rewatched it. No, it's not perfect, but I definitely think that this movie, compared to the remake, blows the remake out of the water. I went to the theater to see the remake, and I think that was probably the most miserable movie-going experience I'd ever seen in my life. I didn't understand why they changed the antagonists in this film are the Russians, whereas in the remake, it was supposed to be the Chinese, but then it was the North Koreans, and it kind of just, they were really asking you to suspend your disbelief in a lot of areas to the point where it was almost impossible to suspend your disbelief. But this movie has a little bit of believability to it. Like, this could happen. And, I mean, this movie came out a little bit after, or was it during, really? I mean, I'm a history guy. Sometimes I forget shit. It's my allergies and my fucking head's all fucked up right now. But this came out during a time where all that stuff was very controversial. So I can definitely say that that's probably why this movie gets a lot of negativity thrown towards it. But watching it in modern, well, I mean, not modern days, but watching it today, it's actually a really good movie. A little dated in some areas, but it is a really, really good film. So watch it. If you're going to watch a Red Dawn film, watch this film. Skip the remake entirely. This is the much superior film. I don't know why it took me a while to get that out, but much superior film. The original. Alright, I understand. This is not my favorite in the franchise. This is my favorite sequel in this franchise. But there's always something about this film that always keeps me coming back to it even more than the original. I think the original is the best film in the franchise, character-wise and story and whatnot. But there's just something so entertaining to me and, well, very, very visceral about this film that just keeps me coming back to it. That's Rambo 4. This film is probably one of the most fucking violent films I have ever seen in my life. This movie is fucking brutal, dude. It doesn't try to glorify the violence. This feels like real violence. Like violence that could really happen. And you see children getting brutally killed in this movie. Now that part's not particularly entertaining. That part is more along the lines of just shocking. There's even a scene where you see a baby get killed. Say, it's brutal. It's not fun to watch. It's very it's very unpleasant. But I think that was kind of the point of the film. I think I believe Sylvester Stallone directed this as well. A film by Sylvester Stallone. Yeah, so he directed this. I think he just really wanted to, from what I got from this, he wanted to show you the violence, the reality of the violence going on in some of these third world countries. And Rambo is just trying to have he's trying to have a normal life. He's trying to have some semblance of a normal life, which it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why would you want to live in a country like that if you're trying to avoid violence? But I've always gravitated towards Rambo 4 out of all the sequels. Yeah, just a really great film. And I know it's only got like a 20% on Rotten Tomatoes, but who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? Alright. Right here, my favorite horror film of all time, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is just a masterpiece. Just a complete, utter masterpiece. I adore the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Everything about it, from the minute it starts to the closing credits. It's just a terrifying film. If this film terrified you, it did its job. It's like I was having this conversation with my dad. Did this movie terrify you? Well, fuck yeah. Did its job. It's a cult classic. I even go as far just to call it a classic in the realm of horror, not just like a cult classic where only a select few know about this movie. No, this is like a genuine horror classic. To me, this is the greatest horror film ever made. And Leatherface is one of the most intimidating horror villains of all time. And I really think they do away with a lot of that in the sequels and the remake series and this new Texas Chainsaw film. They do away with what makes this film frightening. It's kind of like Halloween. The Halloween sequels, they do kind of the same thing. They eliminate and completely just kick to the side what made that first film frightening. And that's kind of the same case with this franchise as well. But this film, just a brilliant film. I adore it. Alright, next, another one of my favorite movies. Fucking allergies, man. End of Watch. Now, this is actually a movie that I didn't like the first time I saw it. Upon multiple viewings, I have grown to love this film. It is a very, very, what's the word? It's a very realistic approach to what being a cop, a street cop, an ordinary street cop in LA would be like. There's cops that have said this thing's pretty close. It's probably not 100% on the spot, but it's really hard to do that. It's borderline impossible to get it 100% on the spot. But this movie, from what I understand, does a really good job at portraying that. And even if you're not into cop films, this is not like a buddy cop film. This is a really grounded, dark, bleak cop film that I think everybody should see this movie. It's really, really good. It's got Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Pena in it, and those are two phenomenal actors. So definitely give End of Watch a shot. I find myself watching it quite a bit. Alright, I know there are 3 movies in this little box here, but only one of them is being discussed. Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. That's my favorite in the franchise. And, well, Attack of the Clones is my second favorite in the franchise. That's a movie I like that not a lot of people would agree with me on. That actually, I love Attack of the Clones. And I love Attack of the Clones so much that Revenge of the Sith just makes Attack of the Clones better. And it even makes Phantom Menace better. That's how good Revenge of the Sith is. It is just that good to me. You'll get these older Star Wars guys, oh, I don't like any of the prequels. They only like the original trilogy. And you know what? That's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. But I think that all of these movies together have something to offer to the Star Wars franchise. But Revenge of the Sith is the one that just takes the cake for me. It has the best action scenes. I mean, that's the action scenes in these movies are probably the best in the franchise. I do like, even though I liked The Last Jedi's action scenes, a lot of that movie was horseshit to me. This movie makes you, I believe Hayden Christensen's performance. A lot of people didn't like Hayden Christensen's performance in Attack of the Clones. I think that he did an amazing job in both Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. He did an amazing job at doing what George Lucas wanted him to do. That was to make Darth Vader stoic and emotionless. Because really, to be honest with you, in the original trilogy, that's kind of how Darth Vader was as a character. He's very stoic. He's just kind of robotic. And that's how Hayden Christensen portrayed Anakin in Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. He does better in Revenge of the Sith, obviously. And that's the main movie I'm talking about here. But just Hayden Christensen, I hate this notion that Hayden Christensen can't act. Hayden Christensen can act. He is a really talented actor. And you cannot judge him based on these films. Because he does a brilliant job at portraying Darth Vader before he gets the suit. Because that's how Darth Vader is in the suit. So why does that mean It's good continuity to make him like that in the prequel trilogy. It's good continuity. It makes perfect sense. And a lot of people gave him shit. I know that I'm talking about Attack of the Clones. I like that movie too. They don't like Anakin because he cries when his mother dies. Well, I don't know if I were you, or if I were in that situation, rather, and my mother's dead in my arms, don't you think it would be just a little bit normal to, display some sort of sadness? I don't know. But, anyway, Revenge of the Sith, I'm talking about Attack of the Clones, but Revenge of the Sith, it's just like I said, best action scenes. I was getting a little off topic. Best action scenes, best acting performances. It's got the best CGI. I know Star Wars, these more recent films are a little bit more reliant on CGI, but it looks good here. The entire planet of Mustafar looks phenomenal. And I think that Revenge of the Sith just has the best CG in the franchise. I think it's even better than the Disney films, personally. Now, that's not as much to do because I don't like the Disney films, but I just think Revenge of the Sith is the best Star Wars movie. I know what you're thinking. Oh, The Empire Strikes Back is the greatest Star Wars movie. Empire Strikes Back is a damn near perfect movie. But Revenge of the Sith has always been my favorite Star Wars movie. It's just been one that I enjoy watching the most. And out of all the Star Wars films, Revenge of the Sith is the one I watch the most. Because to me, it's really good. I don't care what anybody says. Alright, down to the final two. And my favorite film trilogy of all time, and I had to pick the one that I watch the most, and that's Spider-Man 2. This is my favorite non-Star Wars film trilogy, and this is even after Star Wars No Way Home, Spider-Man No Way Home, I still think that this is the best Spider-Man movie ever made, personally. And No Way Home was a phenomenal movie. I loved it. I saw it in the theater. I thought it was just everything about it was fantastic. And I would not change anything about No Way Home. But Spider-Man 2, to me, is just... When it comes to just the world of comic book films, not just in terms of source material or loyalty, because they do make some changes in this trilogy, this just tells an amazing story on its own. I don't think it would it wouldn't make all that much of a difference if you read a Spider-Man comic or not to enjoy this film. Along with the other two films in this trilogy, which like I said, it's my favorite film trilogy of all time. But I said this is just such a good movie to the point where I don't feel like you even have to read a Spider-Man comic to really appreciate this movie. This is just a movie that, even if you're not a fan of comic books, if you like superheroes but you don't have the patience for comic books, this is definitely the comic book movie I would direct you towards. It's just that good. The story, the characters, the effects, just everything. Even the soundtrack. Danny Elfman's soundtrack in this movie is phenomenal. I just find myself watching Spider-Man 2 an awful lot. And, well, this one should be no surprise to anybody. I find it's rare if I don't watch this film at least 5 times a year. Nah, I wouldn't say 5 times. I'd say more like at least 3 times a year. Once at the start of the year, once in the middle of the year, once around the end of the year. My favorite movie, Saving Private Ryan. What else can I say about Saving Private Ryan? It's just a fucking great movie. It's phenomenal, well acted, well shot, emotional, heartbreaking, visceral, bloody, carnage filled, just chaotic, but it tells a really... It's a basic story, but because how well the characters are written and how well the script is written and how amazingly the battle scenes are shot in this movie just makes this movie a perfect 10 out of 10 for me. I'm sure there's somebody that'll watch this and see flaws in it, but to me, this is just a flawless film. It's my favorite. I watch it just any chance I get to watch this movie, I do, and it never gets old. It's been my favorite movie since before I should have even been watching this. I remember the first time I saw this movie. It was actually when my grandfather was down for a visit, and him and my dad were watching it, and it started out with older Private Ryan walking through the cemetery, and the next thing you know, we're landing with these second rangers on Omaha Beach, and these guys are just getting cut the fuck down with MG42 machine guns, and I shouldn't have been watching that at that age, but I was just like, holy shit. Like, fuck, I've never seen anything like this before. This is a one-of-a-kind film, to me. It's just, I haven't, like I said, there's spiritually Band of Brothers in the Pacific, or if you want more of this, but, a mini-series and not a film. Band of Brothers in the Pacific is the way to go, because it's done by Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg, the same guys that worked on this movie together. But to me, this is just the king of war films, and probably just the king of films in general. I know this probably is not everybody's favorite war film, I get it. Kelly's Heroes is another good one, Hacksaw Ridge, Fury, Bridge Too Far. There's all kinds of great, We Were Soldiers, there's all kinds of great war movies, but to me, I just think that this is the best war movie, in my opinion. It's just the best movie ever made. But yeah, that will kind of wrap up my top 12 most watched films in my collection. So if you guys have if you guys have a movie collection, what are your most watched movies? Let me know down in the comments, and make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys for watching, and I'm out. Peace.